Today, we're talking about going for your career goal. Or very specifically, I want to approach this from a slightly different angle, and that is to challenge you on all of the reasons why you keep procrastinating it. So, why you keep putting off going for your career goal. And what I want to do in this session is emphasize just how important it is that you stop doing this, you stop putting it off. We are not just talking about procrastinating, doing a bit of work, drafting a document, for example, or putting off writing a legal opinion, as was the case in one of the Be the First progression coaching sessions recently. We're not just talking about the everyday tasks that I know you might procrastinate because you're feeling tired or the task isn't very interesting or it feels a little bit hard. Those tasks, when you procrastinate them, it's not nearly as serious because ultimately what's going to happen is the deadline will come and you will end up doing it anyway. So the fact that it is time bound, you have a deadline means you won't be able to procrastinate it indefinitely. Or similar case scenario is somebody chases you for it and they keep chasing you for it. And in the end, you being chased for it becomes even more uncomfortable than you doing it. So you get the task done. And you know what? The worst case scenario in either of these situations is it just takes you longer than the task should have taken you to complete it. You still get it done. Or it just maybe affects your brand or people's perception of working with you if they constantly have to chase you for it. Now, I'm not saying that those aren't consequences you want to care about, but what I am saying is that they are what I'll call more temporary consequences, lighter consequences, versus if you procrastinate your career goal, you keep putting off the question, what do I want to achieve in my career? Where do I want to go next? What's my next level of progression? If you procrastinate on asking those questions and on answering those questions and taking action to move yourself forward, the implications are so much more serious. Number one, because look, there are no deadlines. There are no deadlines to you actually having a goal for yourself in your career. And what this means is that you will keep putting it off, and possibly never actually do it. You'll just spend your whole career being swept along with the tide, other people deciding what you are capable of, what they want for you, or other people just deciding to be indifferent about your career progression, all of it being out of your hands. So the fact that there are no deadlines means you'll keep putting it off and therefore potentially never achieve your full potential. And this is the worst case scenario. I want you to think about this in order to create some urgency in you and seriousness around quite how important this is. I want you to know that the worst case scenario, and in fact, the likely scenario of you procrastinating your goal, not going for what you want, is that you underachieve in your career. You do not fulfill your potential. I talk a lot about the pain of unfulfilled potential. And if you right now are at a level in your career where you know you are capable of more, where other people are overtaking you, more junior lawyers are being promoted ahead of you, or they're getting all the opportunities, they're attracting all the work, interesting work, the work getting the best work allocation. If you know you are not performing to your potential right now, you will know the pain of that and how it feels. So now I want you to think about what will happen to that pain a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I know that's really hard to imagine. I can't imagine myself 10 years from now. But I do know, for example, that a year from now, if nothing has changed, right, if I haven't progressed towards my goals, I know that the pain of like unfulfilled potential that I talk about it doesn't stay the same. It gets worse. It gets stronger. This is what is at stake when you procrastinate your goal, okay? And this is what I want to change for you, really put a fire in you, like light you up, ignite you, get you energized, get you moving to taking action to progress your goal. So there's no more procrastination. I want to also, again, to really drum home what's at stake here for you. It's not even just that you will not have the personal satisfaction and fulfillment of having given your career your best shot, of having really proved and shown to yourself above anyone else what you're capable of. So it's not just that personal fulfillment and satisfaction. It's also by procrastinating your goal, by not creating or having a sense of like healthy urgency about wanting to create it, wanting to decide what that goal is and going for it, moving towards it. What is at stake is the lifestyle that you don't get to have because you didn't go for your goal. It's the confidence that you don't get to build as a result of going for your goal. It's the character, the resilience, the resourcefulness that you don't build as a result of the failures that you experience or the negative feedback that you might have, the discomfort, inevitable discomfort that you will experience as you go for a goal. That's normal, right? It's all part of the process. But the point is you will be missing out by procrastinating your goal. You will be missing out on the upside of that, the character, the resilience, the resourcefulness, who you become along the way to achieving your goal. You will be missing out on the growth, like the growth that you don't get to experience as a result of challenging yourself and seeing what you're capable of. And it's the role model and the example of what is possible that you don't get to be for those around you, for those beneath you, for your children even. This is what is at stake. This is what you are choosing, maybe unintentionally before now, but now you know what's at stake. To continue to procrastinate your goal, put it off, think it's not important, think there's no time for it right now, think one day you'll get to it, think, oh, I'm not really in the mood, I don't really feel like it, I don't have the bandwidth for it. You know, all of those things that come up for us that stop us from doing something. By being in the procrastination of your goal, these are the things that you are saying no to, and you're doing it intentionally. Now you know what those things are. But we're going to change that. And here's what I want to achieve. I want to help you see the urgency and feel rather the sense of urgency in going for your career goal. And I'm talking at the moment as if you know what that career goal, and if you're someone who doesn't know what that is, haven't even thought about it up until now, maybe you're new to this work, don't worry, I'm going to address that in a moment. But to outline then my goals for you in this episode, it is really to help you to feel a sense of urgency around what the next level is of progression is for you in your career. It's also, because the feeling of the sense of urgency is only the first part, it's also about getting you to take that first step towards it. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that first step is and how you can take it. I'm literally going to give you the recommendation at the end of this session. But the point is that you stop procrastinating what is most important. I don't say that lightly. Your progression goal is the most important thing. What could be more important than deciding what you want to achieve in your life and going for it? What could be more important than deciding that the place, the arena where you spend and commit such a huge chunk of your time, dedicate so much of your focus? Like, what could be more important than deciding to do that in a way that brings you the biggest possible rewards in terms of, yes, money, yes, status, if you care about that, success, freedom, also like rewards in terms of progression can also be about doing what you already do in a way that's more sustainable, that you can do with more ease, and that allowing you to be less stressed and anxious, or doing it in a way that is less all-consuming, and that allowing you to have more balance in your life and time for the things that you care about outside work and the people that you love. Yeah, what could be more important than the goals you set to help you achieve any of those things? All right, so procrastinating your goal then. Let's start with how you know that this is something you do. Because some of you may be listening to this thinking, oh, I'm not someone who procrastinates my goal. I know, for example, I want to be a partner in a couple of years' time, or I'm already even on the partnership track, or I'm in line for promotion to head of legal, or I'm looking at roles, so the GC roles. Like, I'm not procrastinating my goal. Here, I want to offer you a whole list of examples, okay, of how you will know that you are actually doing it. Okay, number one, you tell yourself that there's just not enough time for you to focus on your goal right now. Number two, uh, okay, there is time, but like it's not the right time. I hear this a lot. Oh, there's a lot going on at work. I'm really busy right now. I don't have any extra time. This is not the right time. Could also be that stuff is going on at home personally, right? And I know that that's something very real that can come up. If you're dealing with a lot in your personal life and work is busy, you can be telling yourself it's not the right time to set your career goal and start moving towards it and take action to achieve it. So if telling yourself it's not the right time is another way you can be procrastinating your goal, because that is often not thought just once, one day. It's that thought comes up day after day after day and can roll into weeks and months and years. Another way you know that you are procrastinating your goal is you just say generally, there's a lot going on right now. It's another version of it's not the right time. Or you say, actually, I don't even know if I want to progress. I hear a lot of you saying that, particularly those of you at that mid to senior level where the question of promotion to head of legal or GC or being promoted to partner comes up. And really, that's when you want to be making a decision about whether that's what you want and starting to go for it. But a lot of you are there and you've been thinking this for a while now saying, I actually don't know if I want to progress. I don't know if I want to be partner. You want to progress, but you're not really sure where or exactly to what goal. Or you say to yourself, oh, well, I'd like to progress, but do you know what? It's going to be hard. So there's a fear side to this where you're afraid of failing. Like, what if I fail? Or I might not have what it takes. So if that's a thought you have about yourself, this is an example of you procrastinating your career goal. If you tell yourself, I'm already exhausted, I just don't have any spare ounce of energy, I don't have any more to give, another way or sign you're procrastinating your goal. If you say, do you know what? I've done all I can. I have pushed. I have a client in one of the Be the First progression for Black lawyers in one of the coaching cohorts who kept coming back with this. Well, there's only so much you can do. I've done all I can. Now, if that's you feel like you've exhausted all of the possibilities, this is an example of procrastinating your goal when you're like throwing your hands up in the air and saying, what more can I do? I've done everything possible. Because what you're really saying is I tried, but it didn't work. And now, I can't go after my goal. I can't achieve my goal. That's one of the ways you are procrastinating your goal. If you tell yourself, as you look above you, as you look around you, as you have that acute awareness to being the only one in the room, you tell yourself, well, I can't be who I can't see. There's no one who looks like me. There are no role models to inspire or motivate me. That's you procrastinating your goal. If you tell yourself, I'm waiting for a sponsor, I'm just waiting for my champion, the mentor, the sponsor. This was something, again, that came up in another cohort on Be the First. It's like if you're waiting for the knight in shining armor, right, equivalent, you are procrastinating your goal. If you tell yourself you can't achieve your goal because they won't include you, this is you procrastinating your goal. If you, on receipt of some negative feedback, particularly if it relates to a behavioral change or something you're told that you need to do differently, then you feeling or experiencing that as being about you, feeling that means you can't be your true self, that you can't be authentic, and therefore can't achieve your goal, that is you procrastinating the goal. It's one of the ways in which you are putting it off or delaying going for your goal. Finally, this is also an example of procrastinating your goal, and that is where your thoughts about where you work and those you work with is that it's racist or they are racist and it's a toxic environment. As long as you are in the energy and the belief of that, that takes you out of working towards your goal, finding ways to progress, and keeps you in the stuckness of, well, there's nothing I can do. This environment won't let me thrive or progress. So all of those are lots of very different, nuanced, subtle ways in which these are signs, right, that you are procrastinating your goal. And you can tell then, after I've shared those examples with you, that by procrastinating your goal, I simply mean all of the reasons you're telling yourself why you are not taking solid action to achieve your goal right now, moving yourself forwards. But don't worry, whichever one of those or more is where you are right now, I'm going to give you such a simple solution that is going to change all of that, help you keep moving forward, and help make sure you've got a clear step to take after either listening to this, if it's on the podcast, or watching this, if you are watching the video. You're going to take action at the end of this session. I'm going to make it so simple and easy for you. Okay. So I want you to think that if you are ready, as I hope you are, having heard what's at stake, thought about why it's so important to have a career goal and be moving towards it. So if you're ready to change that, if you're ready to stop procrastinating your goal, here's what I want you to know is a very simple solution that you can do. So in order to stop procrastinating your goal, all you need to do is just get started. Just get started. That's it. Just start. Take that first step. For example, I'm going to use some non-work examples. Some of you may have tried this. If you're someone who likes to involve exercise, include exercise in your routine, it's very important to you. And by the way, exercise is important to all of us. And most people I know are either exercising or you're not exercising and you're wishing you were exercising. So this is sometimes one of the recommendations you hear. And it's a great example of just getting started. Putting your workout gear out the night before. Like if you want to work out in the morning, do a training session, set out your I'll get these words out. Set out the night before your working out gear. Another way of getting started, another example is when your alarm goes off in the morning and you're thinking about the day and maybe you're dreading the day or it feels like a heavy day and you're wondering how you're going to get through everything, just get out of bed. Just pull the covers off you and sit up. Even if you don't stand up, just getting started is to pull the covers off and sit up in bed. Yeah, it's that small. The just getting started is that accessible. It's that doable. It's that available to you. We could even go back even further in the fitness or exercise example. If you're someone who's never exercised and you want to get started, then getting started might be just going out and buying your first pair of trainers, right? To your first pair of running shoes if you want to start running. Another first step or way of getting started might be joining a club or signing up for a course. It might be, if you're not sure where you're going to go on holiday yet this summer or at the end of the year, you're just getting started, is to research potential destinations. So I've given you just some life examples of those tiny steps you can take, just examples of just getting started. And just getting started is all it takes to get you out of procrastinating your goal. Think about this in the work context. If you have a project to do or a piece of work to do, a document to review, what would be just getting started? Well, it might be printing that document off. If you're someone who likes to review a hard copy, I like doing hard copies of things. So it might be printing it off. It might be just finding out where on your desktop or where in your files the document is and getting it and putting it physically in front of you. Yeah. It might be, getting started might be just like looking at your calendar and planning when in the week you are going to do a task. So in Be the First Coaching, Progressive Coaching for Black Lawyers, I teach you to plan the week and adapt the day. It's a core skill that you learn to support all the strategic work that we do to move you towards your progression goal. So just looking at your calendar and saying, okay, when am I going to do this particular task is a way to get started. Okay, gathering other examples I have for you. Gathering together all of the information you need. That's great, right? It might be that you need to go and ask somebody for something. You might need to go and, I've already given this example, go and find the relevant files. So as you can see, there are so many ways in which just getting started, like you're probably doing that in so many different ways already. So what I want to offer is it's the same principle, the same approach when it comes to procrastinating your goal. All you need to do is just get started. And here's how you know that just getting started will work. For a start, you might already have some examples of how you apply this strategy, as I've said in already, right, in the day to day. But other reasons why this is such a great approach and solution to the procrastinating your goal is because getting started, this is the number one thing. It's the getting started, which is the hardest part. If you've ever put off a task, you're procrastinating for ages, dreading doing it, putting it off until the last minute, and then you sit down and you finally start working on it. And what happens? You actually realize the task is fine. And when you're in it, you start doing it, you get on with it, and you're like, that was so not a big deal. Why didn't I just get on and do that? That wasn't nearly as hard or as bad as I thought it was. So it's the procrastination that makes the task even worse. That's often the most painful part of doing the task. So I want to offer you that the not deciding what your goal is, the not moving towards your goal, taking proactive steps, moving forwards to progress towards your goal, not doing that, but knowing it's something that you either want to be doing or should be doing, you know what's at stake. And I've given you the reasons why it's so important at the beginning of this episode. Like that knowledge is often so much worse and more painful than deciding your goal, figuring out your first step, getting started and getting going. Okay, so that's one thing I want you to realize is that often the doing of the thing is so much more comfortable and easier than the worrying and the frustration and the beating yourself up about not doing the thing. Another reason why this is such a great strategy, the just getting started, is because the momentum that happens after you get started makes continuing the progress towards your goal so much easier. So another way to think about this is that the getting started, sometimes I say it's the hardest part, right? And I mean this in the best possible way, not to put you off doing that getting started, but to let you know if you can just get started, then momentum, progress, results you start achieving along the way, that carries you along. The support you pick up along the way, the opportunities that come into you along the way, all of that carries you along after you have gotten started. I want to give you some examples. A car that goes from stationary to moving has to be in first gear. Why? Because first gear that's the gear that creates the most amount of energy in the car to move it forward. Like that's the hardest your car has to work, is to go from stationary to moving forward. I've got cars on the brain at the moment. I've got two sons who are currently driving, and my second son, Noah, who has driven up to Leeds for the first time motorway driving. It was all very, I was going to say exciting. It wasn't exciting. It was exciting when he got there safely. I was very happy and relieved and excited for him. But initially, just thinking about him being in the car and driving on the motorway, and even that was like this really daunting task for him. And I took him out of the weekend and we went onto the M1, and it was literally the ramping up, getting up to speed, joining the motorway. Like that was the most challenging bit. Once he's on the M1, that's it. He literally just goes straight all the way to Leeds. It doesn't even have to come off or change, right? So the hardest part was getting started, getting onto the motorway and getting up to speed. So that's a great example. Another example is actually going from sitting down to getting up. Now, if you know any people who are older, or you've even yourself had any kind of back issues or ailment, like getting up from being seated takes more energy than just like keeping on moving or walking into the next room. Okay. What about from lying down to standing up? Like that bit takes more energy. Once you're standing up actually is a lot. It doesn't require very much of you at all. I'm assuming you're able-bodied. I'm obviously using examples of able-bodied people, but like if you are lying down and you have to get up, that takes quite a lot of effort. There's a reason why so many of you guys hate burpees. I, by the way, have made it my mission to love burpees. I've just decided it's one of those things that if I can learn to love burpees, then I can learn how to do and love doing anything that's hard. I wrote about this in my book. If you have read Be the First, then you'll know that there's a section in the I think it's in the part 3 where I talk about like if I decide I want to do 100 burpees or whatever it was, that I could totally like get myself there and use my mindset to help myself do that. So I use that a lot when I think about burpees. But the point is, a burpee, the reason why it's one of the hardest exercises is because you have to go from standing up, actually from jumping up to lying flat on the ground and then getting your whole body up again and then jumping up again. That requires so much effort. So just as a caveat, I guess the point is, I mean, burpees just continue to be challenging because you're doing the same thing over and over again. But in one burpee, getting yourself off the ground and up onto your feet, that's the getting started. That's the bit that requires the most amount of effort. That's the hardest part. When you're up, you just do the jump. That bit's relatively easy. It's the getting up that's challenging. Other examples I've thought about, bringing an oven up to temperature. My son, Luca, who's 14, he made a beef Wellington at the weekend. It was amazing. And we had to get the oven up to 200 degrees. And like an oven requires a lot of energy initially to get up to temperature. That's it getting started. Once it gets up to 200 degrees, it gets up to temperature, then it's really easy. It requires so much, like so little energy for the oven to maintain that temperature. Heating your house or a room takes a lot of energy at first when going from cold to the temperature you set. Also writing a book, like when I was writing Be the First, it took, I think, of like thinking about it, shall I, shan't I, putting words to a page, really getting off the ground. I think that probably took from like the first idea to being willing to say, okay, I'm going to do this and starting properly writing to the point where like I knew I was writing this book. That probably took about 2 years. The rumination stage, the kind of getting from the state of I'm not writing another book because I'd already written one in 2015, to the stage of no, I'm doing this. This is the book. I'm writing it no matter what. That probably took about 2 years, and it was the hardest part. There were parts of writing the book that were also hard, and I sometimes tell stories about that in my keynotes and share on the podcast. But what I'll say is the hardest bit was getting myself to, yes, I'm committing to this. I am ready. Again, sometimes or more often than not, the getting started is the hardest part. So you know, if you can just do that, then the rest is going to be relatively easy to do, or certainly easier to do. Okay, all right. I've already mentioned that once you get started, then there's a certain amount of momentum that is created. And I love this too, right? For example, you often find when you're in a task, after you've got started, you're in the zone. When you're in the zone, you're just in flow, you're just doing it, right? It doesn't require very much energy to keep doing it. Also, you start seeing results that motivates you further. And then there's this concept called the endowment effect, which is where we have a predisposition as humans. This is where our brains are wired, that if we've already invested time and energy in something, it means that we're more inclined to keep doing it, to keep investing time and energy. That's quite an automatic state. This is what a lot of research has. There've been a lot of research studies around this, that is a tendency we have. It's often explained in examples to illustrate times when there's something we really need to stop doing, but we keep doing because we're so heavily invested in it. But I want to use it, turn it on its head and see the positive, which is if you've started a project, you've started heading towards your goal, you've taken that first step, then the fact that you've already started taking action, moving forward, means you are more likely, because now you're invested, right? You're more likely to keep going. So what I've done there is just share with you all of the reasons why and the like irrefutable evidence that just getting started is all you need to focus on, concentrate, do in order to stop procrastinating your goal and really start moving yourself forward with a sense of positive urgency, deliberate action, proactivity towards creating and building the life that you want, the career that you want to have. That's what's at stake, remember. It's not really about the goal. It's about you creating the life and career that you want. I'm here to help you do that. And by the way, if you are a Black lawyer And this is like ignited in you the flame, the desire, the sense of healthy urgency to finally say, do you know what? I've been putting this off for too long. I have to invite you. I implore you to join Be the First Progression for Black Lawyers. I am opening enrollment for the September 2024 cohort on Monday, the 8th of July. I'm going to say a little bit more about that at the end, but just while I have you in this like moment of, and the energy of, all you need to do is get started, I want to offer you that is one of the most powerful ways you can get started, is just by joining this program. It will feel like perhaps like the hardest part, which is, shall I commit to this? Like, do I want to invest in this? Can I fit this coaching in? Do I want to be a part of this program? All of those questions and doubts you may be having right now. This is the hardest bit while you're ruminating and being undecided by it. And I want to make sure you are following me on LinkedIn, by the way, or on Instagram. Ideally, you'll be on my mailing list as well, so that all of those questions and doubts, you can see what I'm posting right now, what I'm emailing to you right now. It's all going to address and help you to clarify and to get past those doubts so that you can take this really simple, easy step to just get started. And that's by joining the program. But I'm going to come back to that at the end. Okay, so all of the reasons why getting started is the best solution to your procrastination. It is the hardest part of achieving your goals. So let's find out how you can do it. I'm going to walk you through how. So I want to offer you that there are really just two steps to help you get started. Now, I've already kind of covered the first step, because the first step is for you to ask, where am I getting stuck? What is stopping me? So what are the reasons why I am procrastinating my goal? What is stopping me from moving forward? When I walked you through all of the different ways that you know, like how you know you're procrastinating your goal, every single one of those examples was a reason why you are getting stuck. It was a reason that is stopping you taking ownership of your goal and proactively moving towards it. Okay, so I talked about not enough time. It's not the right time. There's a lot going on right now. I don't know if I want to progress. Oh, well, I want to progress, but I don't know where to. I don't know what my goal is. Oh, it's going to be hard. What if I fail? I might not have what it takes. I'm already exhausted. I don't have the bandwidth or the energy. Oh, well, I don't need to progress my goal. I'm already progressing. Like if you're on the partnership track, you might be thinking that. I've done all I can. There's only so much I can do. There are no role models to inspire me or motivate me. I'm waiting for a sponsor, a mentor, my champion, my knight in shining armor. They won't include me. They want me to change who I am. This is a racist, toxic environment. All of those examples of or symptoms of you procrastinating your goal are also exactly the reasons and the things that are getting you stuck. They are the thoughts that you have right now that are keeping you stuck and stopping you moving forward. So the second step then, now that you have that fantastic awareness of the ways in which you are procrastinating, the second step is simply, in order to just get started, you find what is the first step. So you've got to identify the first step. And then, of course, I should add probably that there's a third step, which is to take it. I hope you're not getting too confused by my using the word step. So there's 3 like steps, if you like, to getting started. Step number 1 is the awareness you have of how you're getting stuck. Step number 2 is you working out what the first step is, okay, that will mean you're getting started. And step number 3 is you taking that first step. Stay with me. All right, here's how I want to offer. I want to give you some examples of what your first step will be depending on how you're procrastinating your goals. So I'm literally going to be offering the first step for you. And then at the end, I'm going to round up with giving you one call to action, one piece of action I want you to take at the end of this session, which is going to encompass all of those ways in which you're getting stuck, all of those first steps. And if I can get you taking action on this one thing at the end, then it's going to change all of that for you. Okay, here we go. So if you have the thought there's not enough time to progress, like actively move towards my goal and with urgency, healthy urgency and deliberate action. If you think there's not enough time, then your first step is to put a date in the diary. That's it. Put a date and time in your calendar. That's your first step. If you think, oh, well, it's not the right time, your first step is to just decide, do you know what? Now is the right time. I'm just going to decide, because it only becomes the right time when you decide it is the right time. There is no objectively right time to go for your career progression goals. You just get to decide, and in deciding, you make it the right time. Okay. Oh, I've got a lot going on now. If this is your thought, then your first step is to think about how long you've been saying there's a lot going on. Recognize that there's always something going on. Yeah, that's your first step. There's always something going on, so it may as well be now. Like, that is like just a change in your thought mindset about things going on, and the fact that if you look back over the last year, there's always something going on. This is life, my friends. There is always something going on. There's always something going on at work. There's always something going on at home. Have you ever had that experience of, I'm sure you have, right, where you unexpectedly get some spare time, or a free day, or I don't know what it is, something for free? Maybe even, this can also happen, you find like a £10 or a $10 note or something. You find some money. And then guess what happens? With that unexpected gift of free time, something new comes up to take that time. Like, you're not actually left there thinking, oh, I've got this free time, because something crops up to fill the space. Likewise, if you picked up $10 or £10 from the floor and that you've discovered, I don't know, in the street, or you found it unexpectedly in a pocket you didn't think you had, guess what? Something happens that you end up needing £10 to pay for something. You know how that happens? So I want to offer that it's like, literally, it's always the way that there is something going on. You are never in this world, in this life, in this industry, going to get to a point where there's nothing going on and you can sit there and go, now let me see. There's nothing going on right now. How would I like to use my time? I think I'll procrastinate. I'll stop procrastinating my goal. I think I might actually go for it and start working towards it. That never happens. There's always something going on. So the very first step then is simply to recognize there's always something going on. It's like, now is as good as time as any. All right, if you tell yourself, you're getting caught up in like, I don't know if I want to be partner, or I don't know if I want to progress, your first step is to find out. If you think I don't know, then find out the answer. Find out if you want to progress. Okay. If you say to yourself, well, I know I want to progress, but I don't know where to or which goal, again, the first step is to find out. Find out where you want to progress to. Find out what goal you want. Remember, I'm going to tell you how right at the end. If your thought and your feeling is, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? I want to offer you that you are already failing by not trying. You are already failing by procrastinating, putting it off. Staying in the fear of failure is a kind of failure. Only if we push through and we're willing to take action in spite of the fear are you actually moving forward. Are you actually giving yourself a chance to succeed? But until you do that, as long as you are stuck in the what if I haven't got what it takes, what if I don't make it, this would be devastating, the biggest disappointment. As long as you're caught in that thought and that emotional state and not taking any action, then you're creating the result of failure anyway. The result of that a year from now is you haven't achieved your progression goal, which is a form of failure. Yeah. So what you want, your next step then, is to find out whether you're going to fail. And here's a spoiler alert for you. You are going to fail along the way to your goal, but failing along the way is how you get to your goal. So the first step is the being willing to find out. All right. You're exhausted. Okay. If you're feeling exhausted, there's too much going on. Did you know that your progression goal could be to be less exhausted, to lawyer with more ease, to feel less stressed, to actually enjoy this profession you've worked so hard to enter, the career you've worked so hard to build, your progression goal could well be just doing it with a lot more ease and peace of mind. That is such a worthy goal. I want to offer that to you. And if that is your goal, if where you are right now is exhausted, please stop procrastinating the goal of leveling up your whole experience of being a lawyer and working in this industry. Go for making it a better experience. Take ownership of your experience of working in this industry and how you feel, and decide you are going to change that experience and make it better for you. That is such a worthy goal, my friend. So if you feel exhausted, then your next step is just to decide you are going to take ownership of how you feel and decide you are going to change it. You're going to set that goal. Okay. What about if you think you're already progressing? Like that is a sneaky one, right? Because you think, well, I'm already progressing. So like what else should I be doing? And I mentioned this as an example of procrastination because where I see this coming up is when you're on a partnership track or you're on a promotion track or some sort of career development track, and you think that just being on that track is you progressing your goal. But 9 times out of 10, you've been put by someone else on that track. And you may have been given some assurances, some indicators that you have a strong likelihood of progressing, but you do not know. And you are being very passive in your approach to your own career progression. So if this is you, this is a form of procrastination because you are just by the sidelines waiting to see what happens in terms of you achieving your goal. I know you might be on the program doing all the things that you're required to do, but you are not actively moving towards your goal. And therefore, your first step in order to just get started on proactively moving toward your goal and making it happen for you, creating urgency around it, being invested in it, your first step is just to decide you are going to take charge of your goal. You want to have ownership of it instead of waiting and seeing and letting kind of the firm decide and letting the process decide whether you make it or not. Okay. If you think to yourself, I've done all I can, then your first step is to say, what else could I do? It's to go all in and look for a thing you haven't tried and be curious and willing to keep going until you find something you haven't tried. If you feel like you have no role models or you're waiting for a sponsor, I want you to decide to be that person, be the role model, be the change. This is something, it's one of the fundamental principles behind Be the First is that you can be the change that you can't see. Yeah, that's who I have been for myself. I was never able to be, to see the role models. There was never anybody more senior than me, a Black person in my industry or in my school as I was growing up. There was never the Black role model. And that's who I've become by pursuing my goals with a sense of urgency, with a real desire and being proactive. I have become the change that I want to see. Yeah, I've become the role model for others. I was able to do that by not procrastinating my goal, but going for my goal. Likewise, if you're waiting for a sponsor and a champion, be your own champion. That's your first step. Decide you are going to be your own champion, your own sponsor, your own mentor. While you're waiting and proactively, hopefully, taking steps to call in a sponsor or attract one to you, you be every day being that sponsor, being the mentor. How would you talk to yourself? How would you advise yourself if you were the one that was supporting you to achieve your goal? That's your first step, is to be the person that you're waiting for. Barack Obama in his presidential speeches, like while he was campaigning, he was like, we're the ones we've been waiting for. That ignites so much fire in me. Like that was such a powerful message to stop waiting for somebody else to come and sweep us up and save us. And like, I want to offer that to you if you've been thinking that. And I have a couple of clients in mind because this has come up in Be the First. Yes, be open and be attracting that sponsor and that mentor, be looking for them even. But in the meantime, you be the one that you've been looking for and you've been waiting for. Just decide. That's the first step. So just decide that that's who you're going to be for you. If they're not including you, I want your first step is to find a way to include yourself. If you feel you can't be your authentic self, ask yourself, what am I willing to change in response to this feedback? So that's often where the thought, I can't be my authentic self, comes from. It's when you've been given some sort of feedback, right? And you think, oh, that's impacting who I am as a person. I can't be authentic. And I want you to ask yourself as your first step, this is what I would offer is like, what am I willing to change? Like, what am I willing to let go of? If finally the thing that's keeping you stuck is and then finally, if what's keeping you stuck is they're racist, this is a racist or toxic environment, I'm powerless, right, in this environment, your first step is to ask yourself, okay, what can I do? What can I do here? Or where else could I go? In a lot of these examples, the first step is simply being willing to ask yourself the right question or a different question. Again, it's a way to just get started. It takes you out of being stuck, out of procrastinating your goal, and puts you into movement towards progressing your goal. By asking yourself a question, the right questions, it will bring up a lot of the answers and a lot of the ideas that are going to get you moving towards your goal. It's going to take you out of procrastination and put you into proactivity, being proactive. Okay? All right. So before I tell you the one thing, piece of action I want to encourage you to take at the end of this session, I want to just warn you. It's just a bit of like full disclosure. I want to warn you what to expect. If I warn you what to expect as you just get started, as you take this first step, right, then the chances are you're going to want to do it. You'll be able to do it. As you contemplate taking any of those first steps or any other first step that you come up with that you know is the first step towards your goal, what's going to happen is your brain is going to say, I don't want to. I don't want to, or I can't, right? It will be some version of resistance that your brain will offer you. And I want to mention it here because I want to normalize it. I want to tell you to expect it. And I want to show you that, of course, that's what your brain is going to offer you. That's why you've been procrastinating in the first place. So it's just your brain repeating the narrative over and over again that has kept you stuck, kept you procrastinating your goal, and has held you back from progressing and being proactive in achieving your goal. Okay. So when that happens, and by the way, this happens to me all of the time, here's what I do. I want to offer what I do as a suggestion as to how you approach and deal with this. I just tell myself that I'm willing to feel uncomfortable. I'm willing to be uncomfortable in order to achieve my goal. And I literally say this out loud. So I go to the gym basically every morning. I go every single morning religiously, except the day after I've had an afternoon workout. I don't feel like going to the gym in the mornings before I start work. I just don't feel like it, right? But what I do is I say out loud, and I often say it, even if at the weekend I might be going for a run or something later on in the day, and I'll say it in front of my children because I also want them to learn this skill, which is to say, do you know what? I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm willing to do it in order to achieve my goal. I don't want to go to the gym, but I'm going anyway because I'm willing to go to the gym in order to be fit and healthy, full of vitality, and keep up with my 4 boys. That's part of the goal. Of course, I can't because they're enormous, strapping teenagers and young adults. But to keep up, not be left too far behind them. That's part of my goal in staying fit and healthy, right? So I literally acknowledge the fact. I meet my brain where it is, which is feeling uncomfortable. And I say, yeah, this feels terrible. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm willing to do it to achieve my goals. So I want to recommend you do that. Yeah, whatever the task is, whatever that first step is, say, I am willing to take this first step in order to achieve my bigger goal, that important goal, the lifetime goal, the goal where everything is at stake. Remember that. Like if you can tune into that, what I described to you at the beginning of this session, and why this is so important, why your goals matter, why you absolutely need to have them, why you always want to be progressing because of everything that is at stake when you don't progress, right? Tune into that and feel the urgency in your body. That is going to compel you to take action even when you feel uncomfortable. Okay. I've written some other examples of like how you can ease or manage the discomfort of taking this action. Choose the right company. So I find this really helpful is to surround myself with and talk to frequently people who are also out there doing either things they find hard or taking the first step or moving proactively towards their goals. Yeah, find the right company that supports what you want to achieve. Also, I recommend having a routine, like something you do, making it routine rather, having it be something you do every day or on a set day and having that be non-negotiable. I have always find I can be somewhat all or nothing. And what I do is like sometimes that works against me, but one of the ways in which I use it for me is I just decide if I want to commit to something, I'm going to commit to it every day. I find it easier to decide I'm doing it every day than to give myself the opportunity to go, oh, I'm not going to do it today, I'm going to do it tomorrow. So that's with my exercise is a key thing. It's like, Caroline, you exercise, you do 20 minutes every day, no matter what. And in doing that, however uncomfortable it feels, like I just know that I do it every day. It takes a lot of the drama and decision out of it. So what if you could create a regular time in your calendar, the same day every week, or the same 15 minutes of the day, right? Where you are focused on like your goal and moving urgently and deliberately towards it, like building it in as part of your routine. Other ideas, use music to get into the zone. That really helps me when I'm feeling uncomfortable. I also do other things like make sure I've got tea in my favorite cup. I light a candle sometimes. I like smelly candles. There are all these things that you can do to make the uncomfortable feel less uncomfortable, right? Feel more comfortable, I should say. So expect to feel uncomfortable. Expect your brain to resist you getting started. And like use some of the strategies I've offered and shared with you to make that less difficult, to like help you overcome that discomfort. All right. So now the moment you've been waiting for, I'm going to offer you the best first step you could be taking right now to just get started on moving urgently, proactively, towards achieving your progression goal. Making that goal a reality instead of it being something that's kind of way off in the future and you don't know quite what it looks like or when it will happen, like creating it as something real and concrete and tangible that you want to have in your life with a degree of like excitement and determination and urgency, like really creating those emotions for you, that it's available for you and you can go and get it. So I've got a very simple call to action for you as your first step. Join my free masterclass on Monday, the 8th of July. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast up until now, I had planned to do the masterclass on this Monday, on the 1st of July. It's actually, what date is it as I'm recording this? So you will hear this episode will go live on the 3rd of July. I had planned to do it this week, but we have an election here in the UK. There's a lot going on this week. So I've decided to move the masterclass to the 8th of July. So if you were going to come on the 1st, don't worry, I am holding the masterclass, but I moved it to the 8th of July after hopefully some of the dust has settled after the election. So your call to action is to simply go look in the show notes. If you're listening to this on the podcast, there's a link in the show notes that will take you to the registration page. I'm doing the masterclass at 1 p.m. BST, so British Summer Time, and 6 p.m. British Summer Time. So you can just choose on the day, decide which one that you want to go to. All right. If you go for the lunchtime one, you can't make that. You've got a chance to go to the one at 6 p.m. in the evening as well. So you want to click on the link in the notes to this post or notes to the show notes to the podcast, and just register for the masterclass. And of course, turn up to the masterclass. That's all part of the step. Register and then come to the masterclass, right? Here's why this is such a great first step for you wherever you are in your career. Number one, it's a date in the diary. Number two, I'm literally telling you, like, now is the right time. The opportunity is here now. That's really going to help those of you who are like waiting for the right time. Remember, I said there's no right time. It only becomes the right time when you decide the time is right. This is what I've done by creating this masterclass and specifying a date and a time when it's happening. I'm creating the opportunity here now so that it becomes the right time. As I've said, I've given you 2 time options, so there's flexibility there for you depending on how your Monday looks. Also, within the masterclass, what I'm going to cover, I'm going to help you with your goal. So that will be something for those of you who are like, oh, I don't know what my goal is. I don't know if I want to progress. I am going to help you with that on this masterclass. I'm going to show you where you're getting stuck, like the thing that will, like I think I call them the pitfalls, right? Progression pitfalls that will get in the way of you achieving your goal. So you'll have everything you need. I am going to, what else am I going to do in this? Oh, yeah, it's really about getting you out of like failure by not trying. Remember, I said if you're not trying and you're too afraid to try, then that's a form of failure. So I want to get you out of that type of passive failure into taking action, actually moving forward, starting to progress. It's going to help you take ownership of this progress. It is going to be, I'd love to think of this when I was thinking about the mentor and the sponsor or the champion that you're waiting for. This is what you, as your sponsor, as your mentor, would recommend that you do. If I was your sponsor or mentor or your champion, I am actually your champion, right? I recommend you do this, okay? So this just ticks that box so beautifully. It's the first step. If you've been being held back thinking you need a sponsor in order to progress, this is your first step. This is exactly what a sponsor would tell you to do, or a mentor. All right. It's going to give you ideas about what else you could do for those of you who think you've tried everything. It's going to help you see what you're willing to change. Ask those questions that are going to help you find a way forward. All right. So I've thought all of this through, and the whole excitement around and urgency around this masterclass is to help create urgency in you around your goal. It's to help bring your goal from the future and the possible or the maybe or I don't really know, and make it real and tangible and accessible to you right now, and get you, most significantly, taking that first step so that you can just get started. The masterclass, How to Progress Your Career When You Are the Only One, is exactly how you can get started so that you stop procrastinating your goal and you start moving urgently, proactively towards building and creating the life that you want to live, the career that you want to have and enjoy. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure as always. I will be back very soon with news of the masterclass and how that went. And most significantly, importantly, for those of you who are at that level in your career, mid to senior Black lawyers, and you are ready now, like you've taken the first step of registering for the masterclass, or even if you want to skip that bit and get straight into, actually, do you know what, Caroline? I want to join this program. Yeah. The September cohort of Be the First Progression for Black Lawyers. I'm opening enrollment to that program, that cohort, on the 8th of July, so the same day as the masterclass. So look out for the announcements about that. Be ready to sign up. Be ready to ask me any questions that you have. I'll be booking calls in with those of you who are interested so that I can answer any questions or uncertainties that you have about whether this is the right fit for you. All right. So be ready, stay alert to all my messages, come to the masterclass, and let's talk about how I can help you to start progressing towards your goal and making that happen for you in the next 6 months. Bye for now.